Hello everyone, and welcome back to another WARNO deck deep dive, this time featuring a division that we haven't touched in nearly a year now, because it also has been pretty irrelevant for nearly a year now, and that is 7th Panzer, the NVA Panzer division, and yep, it's in a pretty decent state again now. Team in Place has played it a lot, and I played it a bit lately as well, and it has still its weaknesses, but it also has some strengths again, and we're gonna dive into that. So let's jump in here and let's talk about the deck, starting with the logistics, which are pretty good. You get the SPW 40P2, which I just ranked as the highest in the logistics tab units in my top 5 video, because 3 availability, armor, 8 hit points. This thing, it rocks. It's just what you want as a CV. And then we have the T813 here with a solid 2000 supplies, and the Urals with another 1000, and these keeping our artilleries firing and our tanks fed up. Urals more for the infantry, but yeah, efficient supply here as well. Really solid tab. Infantry tab, pretty okay again. Yeah, Modschützen still decent. We bring in those in BMP 1s here, together with the Panzerjägers, which for forest fights are pretty important, together with the Pioneer Flamme. Having the Panzerjägers in forests can really do nice jobs. And then the Sicherungs, cool, solid new unit, has a RPG. It's an RPG 18, it's absolutely horrible, but it's some AT weapon on it. They come in the BTR 60 PB, which is a great little transport. They are really cheap, they hold flanks really well. So Sicherungs really great as a Sicherungs unit. 7 hit points. Yeah, low veterancy, so they're not gonna win any infantry fights in the long run, but they help you out holding those flanks out. Whilst, yeah, we just and also get some Modschützen with the SP V70 here, which are some nice 8-man squads. Yeah, to have some 8-man squads out there. It's not the greatest infantry tab, obviously, but it does its job. Like, the low hit point on infantry units still hurts the Pack nations quite heavily, and that's the same here, but at least your Modschützen get double MG, which gives them some decent DPS. So, yeah, Modschützen do a decent amount of job. And then, tank tab is pretty competitive again. You have the T55s, which the AM and the AM2B, the M2 and 2B, which both do a decent job at what they're doing. The 14 frontal armor make them quite survivable, and the long range they can do some damage. They do really well with IVs. The AM2B is also pretty helpful to stay behind your other tanks and have some long range ATGMs. The ATGMs on these super important, so having those is quite nice. And then the T72s becoming a bit cheaper help them out quite a bit as well. Yeah, they come in decent-ish numbers, but especially the price now is pretty competitive again. 15 frontal armor, 19 penetration. They can, once they get in range, deal with quite a lot, and you get them out in a competitive price point where you can get out quite a couple relatively quickly. So in the early game, they do pretty well. Your AM2Bs and your Conquerors are pretty important for the ATGM game. The BMP ones here all don't have the greatest ATGM, so that's why we take them without them at the moment. Just have them as support weapon here. Yeah, ATGMs on the AM2B and the Conquerors, and then your air tab is pretty important if you play against any heavier division to deal with that. You really want to get into the face of a heavy tank division and beat them before they get too many onlines. Like, that's still the issue of the 7th Panzer. If the game goes too long, you are in trouble, but early on you can beat heavy tanks with your own tanks, and you also have those ATGMs to annoy the enemy, to get some damage in, and to hold the flank as well. And then Recon, pretty good as well. You get some Fort Deploy, with the Spezialaufklärer being most likely one of the best GSR infantry, like maybe the best GSR infantry out there. Good rifle with the Dragunov, AKSUs, good submachine guns. You get an AT weapon. I guess the Spetsstreitkräfte in 27th are a bit better, but outside of that, Spezialaufklärer here, pretty nice, and they have special forces which your Spetsstreitkräfte don't have, and yeah, the RPG is what they have above guys like the LRS and the British and German special forces as well, the Fanspeer and so on. And the BRM1 with exceptional optics is pretty nice for a tank plop as well, to actually give them vision. So having a BRM1 here is nice as well, whilst the Aufklärer just go around on the flanks, bringing in AT. Yeah, you could consider getting the mod Aufklärer instead of the BRM1, but BRM1 by now is priced somewhat competitive. The gun can do some damage from time to time, but that's not the main part of these guys. The main part is that you have a 3 frontal armor unit with exceptional optics for your tank formations to move forward with. AA, pretty important to have good long range, so both coup cards here quite key because you don't have the best air superiority fighters. Yeah, taking over veterancy because the base accuracy of the coup is pretty low, so the veterancy here kind of worth it. Also for quicker second missile, makes a good amount of difference here on the coups. So yeah, taking 4 instead of 6, because 6 is also a lot of investment into AA, whilst 4 is not quite. And then Strelas against helicopters together with the Iglas on 1 vet as well to get that extra bit of accuracy to make sure that you get a couple more hits than you usually would. Makes a good difference as well. Aim time going down with veterancy pretty important as well now against anything plane related. So that's quite key as well. Veterancy on AA a lot more important than it was previously. So yep, that's pretty nice here as well. And then helicopter, not that many, but luckily you get some Mi-24Ds here, which you get 2 cheaply, and then the P here for some Cocon ATGMs, which are not amazing, but they do a decent job. The double 30mm here is a pretty solid gun as well, so having a bit of helicopter option here, which is nice. They do their job. It's not amazing because rockets at the moment are relatively weak and everything can shred helicopters, so you shouldn't focus too much on it, but if you need them for real line cleanup or for a quick support on a flank, they can do that job. And then air tap, pretty classic East German air tap here now. That 4th Modschützen has the MiG-23BN. The Su-22s are really focused on this division, and yeah, you have good ones here. Just remove the AT1. Good availability on the mix and the Su-22 AT. The AT and the cluster here, pretty important. You want to get rid of enemy heavy tanks as quickly as possible with those. So having both of these options here, pretty important. And then the MiG-21 is there to remove annoying ATGMs like a TOW-2 or so. But MiG-23 is just a cheap air superiority fighter to hunt down enemy helicopters. It has a long-range missile for 155 points. That's pretty unique. It's not a great missile, but it at least has 50% accuracy and a good range. 6 damage, also not bad. Like the R-27R is not the worst missile out there. So MiG-23ML, pretty competitive for their price point, and I really enjoy them because of that. So yeah, pretty competitive air tap as well. Seed, unfortunately, a bit hard to afford here, and currently still not that amazing, so that's why we leave them out here. You can play this deck as a bit of an air spam deck as well, with the Su-22HE and the Seed, if you want to go there, or even more MiG-23HE or so. But this deck, that's more in where 4th Modschützen lies in my eyes. And this deck here, a bit more about these tanks pushing forward, getting the pressure in. So yeah, it's all about getting in there early with some heavy armor, with some nice, relatively cost-efficient infantry, holding the line with the sideline with Sicherungs and Conquerors, and then having some decent-ish recon as well. Big weakness of this deck being that it gets beaten by enemy forward deploy quite easily. Like, your forward deploy is not the strongest. You don't have any forward deploy AA. You have some MiG-21s which you can throw in there. You have decent helicopters. Like, a Mi-24D is relatively affordable, so you can stop the enemy there. But that's maybe where this division lacks a bit. So yeah, pro of this division, absolutely, that it runs in and hurts the enemy. But con is that it runs out of steam, and once you do, you're gonna struggle. And also, the really start of the game is not as strong as you might want it to be. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye, and have a great day.